Alright, so ready to finish up the last of our Lich King reviews. First up, Mindbreaker. Rare, 3 mana for a 2/5. Hero powers are disabled. A really strong effect and enough stats to make it difficult to get rid of. Unfortunately, in the early game, you're not going to be using your hero power much. Being able to shut off the new hero powers could be powerful. It just doesn't seem easy. It just seems too easy to get rid of in the late game. A decent option in Arena, but nothing special. 3 out of 10. Phantom Freebooter. Rare, 4 mana for a 3/3 pirate. Battlecry gains stats equal to your weapons. Another potentially strong minion for already one of the strongest decks. The only issue is it may be too slow. On turn 4, you would likely much rather have the guaranteed 4 damage from a Kor'kron Elite than a minion that could potentially only be a 3/3 if you top deck it with no weapon equipped. This is a much better option for rogue pirates, I believe. For that, it's a 6 out of 10. Corpse Raiser. Rare, 5 mana for a 3/3. Battlecry, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, resummon this minion. A somewhat delayed Faceless Manipulator that comes with an extra 3/3. Obviously best used with minions that already have Death Rattle or large taunt minions. Making this ability available to more classes than just Shaman could lead to it seeing a good amount of play. 6 out of 10. Shallow Gravedigger. Rare, 3 mana for a 3/1. Death Rattle, add a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. A good minion to bring back with N'Zoth, and it more or less cycles itself like a Loot Hoarder. I'm not sure what you would cut from any of those decks to put this in though. Decent in Arena, nothing special. 3 out of 10. Ticking Abomination. Rare, 4 mana for a 5/6. Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your minions. Compare this to Pit Lord, which is the same mana and stats for a worse effect. Nobody plays Pit Lord, and nobody will play this. 1 out of 10. Bone Drake. Rare, 3 mana for a 6/5 dragon. Death Rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. The only serious dragon decks being played are in Priests, and in my experience, you never have a shortage of cards in hand. Fairly high cost card with no immediate impact isn't going to help that deck. You're better off playing Bookworm as your 6-cost dragon for the extra removal over this. 3 out of 10. Serenite Chain Gang. Rare, 4 mana for a 2/3 taunt. Battlecry, summon a copy of this minion. The important part is that it summons a copy and not just another 2/3 with taunt. Buffing this on turns 2 and 3 with a paladin wouldn't be hard, and then you would have 2 4/5 minions with taunt on turn 4. Difficult for many aggro decks to get through and would require a significant use of removal by any control deck. May only see use in that one kind of deck, but it is a solid addition to it, so it's a 6 out of 10. Happy Ghoul. Rare, 3 mana for a 3/3. Cost 0 if your hero was healed this turn. Turn 2 heal yourself as Priest may finally be a good play. Realistically, if you're playing a deck that wants to get a lot of minions out fast, you aren't going to be spending much time healing yourself. In the late games, an extra 3/3 for 0 isn't going to bother your opponent too much. There's just nowhere that it seems to fit in, even with the addition of Lifesteal. 2 out of 10. Keening Banshee. Rare, 4 mana for a 5/5. Whenever you play a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. Not the worst thing in Arena, where cards in your deck aren't terribly important. Really bad and constructed where there's generally a purpose for each card in your deck. Not worth the 1 extra attack over each Chillwind Yeti for such a negative effect. 2 out of 10. Meatwagon. Epic, 4 mana for a 1/4 mech. Death Rattle, summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. Bad stats because of a super powerful effect. If it dies without being buffed, it can at least draw out a Doomsayer your opponent will have to deal with. Buff it with a Rockbiter weapon, and you could have a free Alakir in play. It has some combo potential, but maybe too clunky to see regular play. 3 out of 10. Tome Lurker. Epic, 5 mana for a 5/3. Battlecry, add a random death rattle minion that died this game to your hand. Bad stats and a decent effect. Onyx Bishop sees play in only some niche resurrection decks. And that is with an effect that places the minion in play. The only thing it has going for it is that there are very few 5-cost minions with good effects. I still can't see this being used in really any death rattle deck. 2 out of 10. Nerubian Unraveler. Epic, 6 mana for a 5/5. Spells cost 2 more. Cards that are only good when you are ahead tend to be bad. This is another example of one. Could prove really valuable in Arena to stop your opponent's Spike Ridge Steed or Flame Strike. Won't see any constructed play. 2 out of 10. Corpse Taker. Epic, 4 mana for a 3/3. Battlecry, gain Taunt if your deck has a Taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Wind Fury. If you only have Taunt, this is a worse Iron Fur Grizzly. If you only have Divine Shield, this is a Silver Moon Guardian. None of those cards are worth playing. Combined, however, they make for a pretty strong card. So most likely only see play in Paladin with Tyrion and Wicker Flame, Burn Bristle, or Shaman with Alakir. But what happens if you draw any of those cards before this one? You could keep it in your opening hand and hope you don't draw into any of those cards over the next 4 turns. If you do that, then you have a fairly formidable minion. 5 out of 10. Skulking Geist. Epic, 6 mana for a 4/6. Battlecry, destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. The obvious use for this is against Jade Idol. Getting rid of that card could leave your opponent stuck in fatigue. Unfortunately, by then, they are probably already at the point of playing large Jade Idols for you to deal with. Not worth it to only somewhat counter one specific deck. 1 out of 10. Rattled Rascal. Epic, 4 mana for a 2/2. Battlecry, summon a 5/5 skeleton. Death Rattle, summon a 5/5 skeleton for your opponent. Being neutral allows for rogues to shadow step this without the negative effect. There's always Brewmaster combos, but those are generally too expensive and gimmicky. It has some uses in Evolved Shaman and Silence Priest as well to make what seems like an average card just a bit above average. 6 out of 10. Furnace Fire Colossus. Epic, 6 mana for a 6/6. Battlecry, discard all weapons from your hand and gain their stats. Not exactly sure how this one works. Do you just get the attack added to both the minion's attack and health? Or does the durability do something? Either way, I may never find out because discarding cards from your own hand is really bad. Expect to only see this in Arena as a worse Boulder Fist Ogre. 2 out of 10. Jakari Enchanter. Epic, 3 mana for a 1/5. Your end of turn effects trigger twice. We've seen similar cards that double effects in Baron Rivendare and Bran Bronzebeard. Those 2 cards were considered borderline broken. This one won't reach that level, but it has some ability to be abused. You can play it on curve with Primal Fin Totem or after a Mana Tide Totem. Then there are the really big cards like the Lich King or Ysera. Slightly more difficult to use than the other 2 cards, yet I can still see it being powerful. 7 out of 10. Death Axe Punisher. Epic, 4 mana for a 3/3. Battlecry, give a random lifesteal minion in your hand +2/+2. There aren't many lifesteal minions. Hand buffing cards have been overall weak so far, and this one is no exception. Most likely over half the time it will be a 3/3 for 4 that does nothing. 2 out of 10. Prince Keleseth. Legendary, 2 mana for a 2/2. Battlecry, if your deck has no 2-cost cards, give all your minions in your deck +1/+1. A card for control decks with an effect for aggro decks. Those 2 don't mix well. Playing no 2s and hoping to get this in your first few cards is a long shot. After that, it just becomes a slightly better Grime Street outfitter. There are just way too many better and good 2s to play, especially in Arena. 2 out of 10. Prince Hal Durham, legendary 3 mana for a 3/3, Battlecry. If your deck has no 3-cost cards, transform into a 3/3 copy of a minion. I could see this in Ramp Druid maybe in Mage to copy Antonitis, but then you couldn't play any secrets or several other really good cards. This would most likely see play in a Control N'Zoth deck to copy a really good Death Rattle minion, and that is about it. 3 out of 10. Prince Vallon, legendary 4 mana for a 4/4, Battlecry. If your deck has no 4-cost cards, gain Lifesteal and Taunt. 1 more attack and 1 less health than Ascension. 4 mana cards tend to be some of the staples to most decks, so getting rid of them for something with not a great effect isn't going to happen. Decent against aggro, awful against control, worst in arena. 2 out of 10. Arphis, legendary 4 mana for a 2/2 beast. Death Rattle, add a random Death Knight card to your hand. That does not mean the new Death Knight versions of heroes as I had originally thought. Instead, it is one of a select set of cards similar to the ones you get from Ysera. Some are quite powerful while others are a bit weak. Is it worth running out a weak minion and a chance to get one? I don't think so. 3 out of 10. The Lich King, legendary 8 mana for an 8/8. Taunt, at the end of your turn, add a random Death Knight card to your hand. A card definitely fitting of his namesake. The Taunt is really what puts this card over the top. One of the few cards I can see replacing Medivh in decks and filling in where the original Ragnaros would have been run. 8 out of 10. We're almost a month at this point into the new set, and there's definitely been some trends I've noticed with cards that I thought wouldn't be that great that are turning out to be somewhat overpowered, mostly Druid, of course, and some cards I had highly rated that, of course, didn't really pan out. Overall, though, the set seems to be average. No extremely great game-breaking cards, no super underpowered cards for every class. It seems like most classes at least got a card or two to make a different deck, especially with the new Death Knight heroes. Those have kind of made their own different decks, which has been fun to play. Even the Hunter Death Knight I've enjoyed playing despite how bad I thought it was. It is fun to build beasts and just throw them out there. So, in my opinion, good sets. Hopefully some changes to Druid coming. That seems to be a big issue. Anytime I see a Druid, it's I guess we're doing this. Well, it's, that's just life. So I hope you enjoyed all of these reviews. Definitely, as soon as more of the game plays out, maybe in the next couple of months, we'll go back over these reviews and see which ones I did have too high or too low or just right. Yeah, until then, enjoy the game. Hopefully this was helpful to somebody, even though it's extremely late. Sorry. No, not really that sorry.